So these issues of sort of shadowing inside the eye are quite common because, of course, depending on what kind of light characteristics you're using, if it's a very hard light like we have here, it's going to cast shadows because of your brows, your lashes. Obviously, angle of light depends on that as well. So it's definitely something that we have to fix. And in order to do that, generally it's kind of a two-step process. So if we have any, fine lines like this, usually I'll just use the healing brush to try and get rid of those. But if we have like larger patches like this, then it's often best to actually dodge them out and then correct the color afterwards. So we're going to just work on this area of the eye because it has a lot of discolorations, and obviously zoom in quite a bit. And we actually see two different issues here. We see that we have this kind of greenish line over here that I want to fix. And if we go into color, we can kind of spot that. You see this little patch? That's not what we want there, obviously. We want that to kind of all flow together. Now, obviously, we also see down here that there is a color issue. I mean, we've got these red patches, so it's not purely luminosity, although it is luminosity to an extent, because we can see all of this stuff going on here that is a luminosity issue. So, again, we're going to follow our same process, which is let's fix the luminosity issue and then correct any resulting color issues. So, we'll call this inside eye, and let's go ahead and add a curve. So again, our curve is dependent on, kind of the degree to which we need to correct that area. And so, I'll probably use something like this. And then again, Command I, grab our brush at, let's grab a 1% flow rate again. And of course, making sure we're painting in white. And let's just go ahead and start kind of dealing with that here. So we'll keep painting until these luminosity issues go away. And again, make sure you do this as a separate grouping. It really shouldn't be part of your overall dodge and burn strategy, because it is a localized kind of thing, so we want to deal with it locally. And that's why, again, I don't like to call local dodge and burn local, because this is kind of more local. I prefer to call it, corrective dodging and burning. It's almost like a global corrective dodge and burn, and this is local corrective dodge and burn. So as you can see, nomenclature is kind of confusing. Doesn't really matter what you call it as long as you know when to use it and how to use it. So if anybody starts to argue with you, just tell them who cares, as long as we use it properly. All right, so that is taking care of that issue for us. Again, let's just zoom out a little bit to make sure that's okay. And obviously, we have some more shadowing here. You can see that, there's like lighter patches here, but those are fairly minor in general. I mean, this is just a little bit of burning here and then maybe a tiny bit of dodge just to make this all flow together. So that I would actually do as part of my larger fixer group that I have and I'm going to do later on. Really, I'm just trying to fix the ones where there's color issues affecting it, or they're very drastic changes in luminosity. So I think this is good enough for this sort of local correction. So let's take off luminosity here because we obviously want to visualize the color now. And as we can see, the color is an issue. So once again, let's go ahead and clip a hue saturation adjustment to that. Option or Alt and then clip. And then let's just pull down our saturation until we are happy. And actually, I'm not going to operate on the master here. Let's just do this on reds. And let's just sample this out. And then let's actually pull a little bit more kind of blue into that as well. Now we have a little bit more red over here, and we could kind of deal with that separately. As you can see, that's sort of fixing a lot of the issues there. Now let's take a look at our curve here. Let's see, luminosity, there we go. So we could actually fix a little bit of this. Let's just grab a brush. And if we paint in, there's still actually a little bit of luminosity problems right here. So let's just go ahead and paint that in. And by painting that in, it's actually going to bring in a little bit of our hue saturation adjustment as well because it's clipped. So hopefully we can just kind of kill two birds with one stone here. Oh, painting on the wrong layer. That's why nothing's happening. There we go. Okay, let's take that off. So we do still have a little bit of saturation here. We can just address that with a separate mask. But I'm going to first deal with this issue here, and then we'll see. We'll maybe come back to this area. So that's at least kind of fixing the shift from all of our dodging. But there's still other color issues that are sort of lingering here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just fix this one. And I think that probably goes all the way up to here and then something like that. So again, hitting Q for quick mask, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and then we're going to select, a smaller radius here, maybe around 4. And I'm going to go to our trusty selective color tool in this case. And of course, we don't want this clipped because it's not affecting the area that we dodged. It's kind of a separate area in and of itself. And now here it's a little bit more unclear of, what color are we really affecting here? Is it yellows? Is it reds? Is it like whites? So for eyes, when there's discoloration, what I often do is actually just go into neutrals. So what you can do is go into neutrals, and when you're operating on neutrals, I do find that they're pretty aggressive. So if that is the case, just kind of lower down your opacity to 50%, and it just makes these sliders a little bit less sensitive. So let's go ahead and start playing with these sliders here. Do we want to, add some red to that? Probably don't want to add red. Maybe we want to add a little bit of cyan. But I think the biggest issue here is looks like yellow and green are probably the biggest problem. So let's take out some yellow, and lo and behold, pretty quickly that is fixing our issue. Now it looks like we actually have a lot of magenta in there, so we want to add green. So I'm going to take away some magenta, and you can see that that is looking better. And then in terms of cyan, I actually want to take a little bit of cyan out, I think. You know what? I think it's actually okay as is at 0 cyan. So that's all we did actually. We lowered the yellow and we lowered the magenta. So that is doing that there. Let's just go ahead and take a peek at our color helper, and you can see that before and after. There's our little streak, and then once I turn on our corrective, that streak is gone. So let's get rid of that. And then obviously if we want to deal with this, we can either do that with a hue saturation adjustment, or let's try and do it with selective color. I think there's actually maybe 2 color shifts here, but let's give it a shot anyways. Something like that. Q, Command F to blur. All right, and then one more selective color adjustment. In our neutrals, I think, obviously there's a lot of red here, so probably red and magenta are going to be our issues. So let's just go ahead and add a tiny bit of cyan. Maybe take out a little bit of magenta. Actually, no, magenta's pretty good. Let's play with our yellows. Do we have any yellow issues? Yeah, maybe we can pull out a tiny bit of yellow. And then again, play with our cyan. And then let's see with our black point here. Maybe even just taking away a little bit in the black point. There we are. Okay. So that is our shift there. So all in all, we have done this. And again, we've done it purely using adjustment layers. And that's really kind of what you want to see, because again, it's non-destructive. I can go ahead and roll all of this stuff back really easily. Nothing is really rasterized. We just have our background layer, and everything else is just separate layers above it that we can always adjust down the road. So that is our eye area, and of course we would do a similar set of adjustments in the other eye. And like I said, there is still a little bit of shadowing here that we may want to address, and we can do that as part of our sort of global effort of dodging and burning that we showed you in part 2, or I should say lesson 2 of this course. So last thing I really want to show you is how we would deal with sort of the peach fuzz that we have on the cheek. I don't think I'm going to actually bother going with the lips here, because they're already in pretty good shape, and as you can imagine, it's the same process. We will create a separate group called lips, and anything that seems too dark, like for example in here, we will probably just dodge that. Anything that is too bright, maybe like something like this little patch here, we'll just burn it so that everything flows together. And then generally all you have to do on the lips is to do the clipped hue saturation adjustment and either decrease or increase saturation until everything blends. So that's kind of what we're going to do here in this peach fuzz area. But I'll just kind of give you some tips on how to make that a fairly easy process. Well, and I shouldn't say easy because it's just tedious, but just how we actually go about that. So that's what we're going to finish up this lesson with.